fired up. It's made a great decision.
Great teammates, coaches, and other people who want to be Super Bowl champions. And we are. We're going to do it this year.
And we're going places because we want to go places.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another All-22 look at the Detroit Lions. And today, we are taking a look at the Lions defense against the Seattle Seahawks this past week. What happened to this Lions defense? We gave up 41 points defensively. We did not force a punt in this game. So today, we're going to take a look at some specific plays, schematically, how Seattle did some good things against us to put us in some tough positions. Also, some areas where it seems like the Lions are struggling. And we'll throw in some numbers as well, because that's just what we do around here. But I wanted to focus on the defense into this video. We may come back into an offense one because that was really good as well, and I would be excited to watch that one. This one is not as exciting because there's a lot of bad. There is some good as well. I will show some good, but we're not showing all the plays as usual because, you know, we're not trying to rewatch this game. There was a lot of points given up. I don't really want to rewatch this entire game with you guys. I'm just being honest. So with that, we're going to dive into some of these clips from this game. But the first thing I got to start off with, because you know how we like to start off with numbers. I think that's been a theme. Usually when we do these videos, we start off with some stats. So that's what I'm going to do first. Start off with some stats. Keep them in your mind as we go through this. Here we go. Let's take a look at some numbers. Now, this is specifically with the cornerback position. Okay, that's what we're looking at here. Now, of course, you can look up, like, what's the guy's passer rating allowed. And that's, all of these stats are a little tough because it depends on who's marking them and where they marking, like, okay, they were in coverage on this position or they weren't in coverage here. And they could have discrepancies there, right? We can see how that could take place. But overall, I wanted to look at some of the numbers just to kind of get it out there so that we can be thinking about this a little bit with the cornerback position for the Lions. And specifically, our top two corners, our two outside corners that had played a majority of the time through the first 4 games. All right, you can see Amani's stats, you can see Jeff Okudah and Jerry Jacobs. This is not like, you know, their touchdowns allowed through Pro Football Reference. These are a little bit, I don't know if I would say deeper stats. They're more advanced stats, I guess. All right, they're from a different source. But this is what I used last year as well, and I really like the work that they do over here. And also PFF has their grades and stuff like that. But here you go. You guys can see it on the screen. We can go through it really quickly. Amani's stats are on the top. Those stats are from this season. Now, the man success rate is from last year. They don't have this year's up there yet for any of these players. So that's from last season. I'm just putting in there as kind of just a reference, I guess, to maybe something that, you know, you don't expect something to do drastically change over a season. But the first 3 stats are from this year, and you can see how they're not ranking the best. Okay, you can see his coverage rating is 59th in the NFL at -2.9. Takes a look at a cornerback when he's targeted in coverage, also interceptions and pass breakups, and that's one big difference where if you looked at, say, Amani's PFF grades, I think last year Jerry Jacobs actually graded out higher than Amani, which is 100% correct in my opinion, but Amani was making plays on the football, and with the interceptions that he ended up having that season, because of that, I think it really started to sway, especially when you look at like pass rating, things like that. The unfortunate side is Amani isn't getting those right now. He's not forcing those turnovers right now, and he could still be hurt. You know, that's possible. It's very possible, but he's not forcing those turnovers right now, so those type of numbers are not great as of this point. You can see the 68.8% catch rate. That is 64th in the NFL, 2.3 yards on average of separation, which is 70th in the NFL. And the man success rate, as we hit on, that's within 5 yards of coverage, you know, when you're downfield. So within 5 yards when you're in a man assignment. So that's 75th last season at 54% of the time. He was within 5 yards, basically what they're saying. Now, Jeff Okudah's stats from this season, because we really don't have stats from like last year, his stats so far this season, he's got a +20 coverage rating, which I'm sure some plays into that he's had help at certain moments. But again, just because he got help against Justin Jefferson doesn't mean every single play is getting help all year long. That's been the case. That hasn't been the case. And really, a lot of guys on our defense have gotten help at different points. But Jeff Okudah's coverage rating is a +20. That's 24th in the NFL. He's only allowing a 50% catch rate. That's 20th in the NFL. And he's only allowing 1.8 yards per separation. Now, that's pretty high, but it's a half a yard less than Amani. I think are all things that we could probably agree with just by the eye test to this point. And then Jerry Jacobs' stats from last year. I throw this up there because I think getting Jerry Jacobs back would be huge for this defense. I think he is a player that could definitely come in and push push Amani if Jerry Jacobs comes back healthy. And I think it was out there that he didn't really want to be placed on IR in the first place, and it's thought that this week, I think starting Wednesday, that his clock will start, and they got 3 weeks, and if he can come back, then he can come back. If not, he's out for the season. So his clock is going to start this week, according to Dan Campbell. If you can get him back, and he is a Jerry Jacobs of last season, you look at those numbers, plus 22.7 coverage rating, that was 5th in the National Football League. Now, he didn't play the entire season, and he didn't start the entire year that he played either, so keep that in mind, but it is still a pretty nice sample size that you can look at. He also wasn't technically, I guess, the number one cornerback, because Amani was healthy for a majority of that time, and he was like the number one, so a lot of times he did get the number 2. For example, Minnesota. We played Minnesota. Justin Jefferson most of the time was on Amani, and Jerry Jacobs got Adam Thielen. But 46.9% catch rate. All right, that's super low. 63.9% man success rate. Now, they don't have this for Okudah because he didn't play last year, but look at the difference between that and the difference between Amani's. It's about 9% higher than Amani's, and then only 1.3 yards of separation, which is 10th in the National Football League last season. And that number, I think, is very clear when you just watch it, just by the eye test. You see him. He didn't give much separation. He had multiple pass breakups. We know he didn't really have interceptions, but he had multiple pass breakups because he didn't give up much space. He played very tight in coverage. His technical style was to get up on your hip, and he didn't really get called for flags. So he was great at that, being a physical corner that was tight in coverage, and it represents that stat of only 1.3 yards per separation. But I think we knew a lot of this, right? He was good in coverage last year, and I brought this up a little bit yesterday as something that I would look to. Also, if you want to throw out the PFF grades just to kind of get an idea, Amani's PFF grade so far this year is a 27.7. That's in the bad category. Okudah's is a 63, which I think is like above average to good, and Jacobs last season was a 65.8. All right, but with that, maybe going to be one of those things where as soon as he's good to go, he's going to take Amani's spot. But I definitely think, number one, he should challenge him, and I think they should leave the door open to potentially allowing him to win that role. And I think number two, because you already saw what he was last year. To me, again, I thought he was our best corner last year. And on top of that, I also think you have to look at certain matchups. Like, for example, when Amani played AJ Green last season, he did well. He did really well. They didn't have Hopkins in that game. They did really well. But when he plays a guy like last week, Tyler Lockett, a lot of times, there can be struggles there to keep connection. He is good on certain matchups. He's better on certain matchups than others. And we know that about Amani. That's just the truth. We know what that is. And that's okay. We know that. So I think when you get Jacobs back, it could shift a lot of things for the Lions if they can get Jacobs back of last year. Because if you did have Jacobs and Amani out and Okudah out there on the field, I think it could allow Aaron Glenn to potentially get a little more aggressive coverage and not all this soft coverage like they played last week, even though I think certain matchups will still do that to you at times. But I think it could absolutely change some things up. And we know Aaron Glenn wants to be aggressive and blitz. It's difficult to do that if you can't trust them to not give up the big play over top, which is really, as a whole, kind of the issue in this game. Because when you look at this Seattle Seahawks team, they had DK, they had Lockett. Last season, they scored 51 points on us. If you look at last year's schedule and you just look at some of the teams that we played, teams that had that threat, whether it was Jamar Chase with Cincinnati, who put up 34 in that game. He had almost 100 yards receiving. He had a big shot, actually, on Jerry Jacobs. That happens. It happened on Okudah in this game. But when you're not trusting that, and you're sitting back in soft coverage and not trying to give those up, and Aaron Glenn's trying to be aggressive, it's difficult to have that mix. So you have to be able to trust your corner so that the coordinator can be aggressive. And if he can't trust his corners, he's going to stop being aggressive. And now you're kind of losing who you are as a team a little bit. So I think you saw some of that impact, and that's not going to go anywhere. Even if Jerry Jacobs was healthy and he was last year's Jacobs, you're still going to give up plays over top. You're still going to have to adjust to certain matchups, but it can change things a little bit for you. So I thought I would just start off with those numbers to kind of put some things in perspective. Start with a play action bootleg. We'll not spend too much time on this play, but there were multiple. There was actually some good in this game, and the Lions started to adjust, and there's one place in particular that I want to point out in a bootleg play, and just how it was different from what we did last season, but also how Seattle utilized it to put us in a tough spot. Now, first thing, you obviously see the fast motion left here with Kenneth Walker. That was a big part of this, and this will come back into play later as we look at these boot action plays. That was huge because our linebackers shift, as you see here. Specifically, it happens in zone coverage, but they start to shift out of the play a little bit, and now it makes it difficult for when you have, like, not on this play, they don't have it, but when they start setting up this beneath route and a linebacker's got to try to get out there and cover, now he's in a tough spot. He's not aligned where he can actually keep up with that tight end that's leaking out, and we'll take a look at that. But here we give up a completion. It's just very difficult to cover this, and it's, you know, it's a simple play. Lions do a lot of the similar things, right? You have your vertical route here with DK, and he's going to end up, you know, basically taking the safety out of the play, and then Okuda's got to try to cover a lot of ground. That's just too much ground for him to cover. That's just an easy, good play design, and the Lions started off doing a lot of that, and they started to mix it a little bit. This is something that Seattle, I think, ran twice in this game. I don't think it's the second time they got the same match. The second time they actually hit Okuda one-on-one deep, but the Lions are going to play this cover 6. Now, this is what they played a lot of the game, a lot of this zone coverage, and usually the way that it would tend to go is whoever was on the side of DK Metcalf, you see him here in the slot, usually when that was the case, your safety would be much deeper. He would get a lot more depth on that side of the field, so that's part of this immediately. Then on top of that, again, you're running like a cover 6 look defensively, and actually I don't think Kirby played bad. I think he did his assignments. He got beat sometimes, and there was a 1-minute miscommunication, but really watching back, I don't think he was terrible in terms of some of the assignments they were putting him in. I think Seattle just did a good job schematically. Now, this is also something that Seattle did, and you won't see it on this play because he has an open receiver, but spreading out our defense. That made it tough. It put us in some tough spots defensively, because then either we would play like this, some soft zone coverage, or if we played man coverage, it would lead to issues, because then we'd either have to decide, do we slide help with our remaining safety or linebackers? Do we put help on, if they go 5 out, 5 wide, do we put help on DK Metcalf and Lockett, or do we keep a guy in to try to spy Geno Smith? And if we're not getting to the quarterback, we're not sacking him very quickly and getting that pressure, or we're not finishing the play, now we can scramble. And they hit us with that a couple of times, but it put our defense in a tough position where we had to make some decisions and, you know, live to give some things up. But just the result of having DK on the field in certain spots, it adjusted what we did in coverage. Having him in the slot, playing cover 6, you can see the depth that this safety is going to get. Okay, Okuda's going to be playing like this underneath coverage. A couple of things that I'm seeing here is that first off, Mike Hughes not able to carry this route, because if he does that and Alex is taken by this drag route underneath as they switch these off, then of course there's going to be a wide open outside receiver who's running this like shallow dig underneath. With that being said though, Kirby, with the depth that he continues to get, worrying about DK Metcalf, I would think that he could start to squeeze down a little bit more than he is, because of the fact that Okuda doesn't have a route on the outside. He can get more depth than usual. That's one of the things that sticks out to me here, is he continues to keep backing up. Meanwhile, Okuda doesn't have anyone to worry about, so he could actually get that depth if he's worried about, say, a corner route, instead of continuing to drop back like he is. Could have got over a little bit quicker than he did, as, you know, Amani's route is taking an outside release, but he has to wait to kind of sit on that in case it breaks inside. Then he's going to jump on it because he's going to pass that to him, but he's like a step late, even though I think Elliott has been really good for us, so they give up that completion. But a lot of what we're seeing was schematically how they took advantage of us. You can see we're having Elliott here to help out Amani. We're trying not to leave guys basically one-on-one, and this is some of that soft zone that we play. We'll see some man later, trying to not give that up and trust our guys on an island. Lions are going to need another fast motion here, and I can't say for sure whether or not this changed the Lions' defensive play. I don't think it did. I mean, I guess it could have. I don't think it did. But you get another cover 6 look with Amani in underneath coverage. Kirby's going to drop out, so they're trying to disguise this. That's fine, but on this side, again, you have that cover 4 type of side, and if you notice, just look how much depth Deshaun Elliott is getting on this play. I mean, he's getting a ton of depth. Now, the Lions have done things like this in the past, but usually, you know, they don't play it in this kind of coverage. And this is just a pretty easy coverage beater when you're running this type of defense, where he just basically cuts off his route, breaks down into like a deep dig route. When you have this much depth because of that vertical, you know, the vertical route, the vertical stem there of DK Metcalf, Elliott just keeps getting depth. They're so worried about giving up the big play. Look how much depth he gets as he works upfield. Then when he breaks it off, Okuda's not going to jump on it because, you know, in this defense schematically, you know, usually you have the safety down. He kind of, you know, sits on it and passes that off to him. The Lions started to do that. But on DK's side, they were playing so off in coverage and so soft in coverage that he just had to break off that route. The safety is way back, and it's an easy pitch and catch, and the Lions seem to just be worried about giving that kind of play up. Also, this fast motion does take Malcolm out of the play. I think that was the key to this. It was trying to get Malcolm to come down underneath. That way he couldn't drop and get depth and be in this way. So it opened up a passing lane clearly for the quarterback, and you can see how soft the Lions are playing in coverage. Seen this before already this season, but when you're in man coverage, it's very important that that guy that's manned up with the running back, if they're going to run a running back screen, he's going to have to make the play, and Malcolm does a good job, -5 yards, he makes the play here. But again, you do kind of see it. DK's on this side, Okuda's going to get up and press, but you have the safety help a little bit over top as well, and then on this side, you're going to be playing more off coverage because of that, but this one is a good play by Malcolm Rodriguez. With Tyler Lockett in the slot and DK Metcalf in the slot, what the Lions are going to do here is they're going to have cover 2 man, but both of their safeties are going to be helping out on the 2 slot receivers. All right, and it's like Seattle kind of knew that, like, oh yeah, they're going to put help. So because probably of last week what we did against Jefferson, they probably assumed the same. We do the same thing, same type of thing. Last week when Justin Jefferson jumped in the slot, Lions usually slid safety help. That's when you really saw it pretty consistently. So we put help here and we help here, and now it leaves the one linebacker. You bring a 4-man rush, you don't get home. You get a little pressure on the edge there, but you don't get home. Alex is going to have to take the running back out of the backfield because somebody's got to take him, and because you're doubling these two slots, now Geno just has a ton of room to run. So that's just one of the tough spots I think that they put us in defensively. One of the tough spots I think they put us in defensively, schematically, about what they were doing. Also, you don't see Hutch on this play. They have AB and Julian trying to rush the pocket. Here is one thing that you will notice more specifically later in the game. McNeil is in there, and that's fine. You know, he doesn't win on this rep. But these interior guys, and I won't point out too much here, you get the double team, but someone's got to win. Someone has to win. And I think what you saw is the interior guys, they struggled to get to win. And I know edge rushers got a little push here. They did. But we'll see different clips there in the game. This time you have a double team. It looks like on Benito Jones. That could be Kaminsky in these situations. I think Josh Pascal could play that role when he gets healthy. And if he does get healthy, I think it can change things up. But right now we don't really have that guy. And if Hutch isn't on the field in the interior, then the Detroit Lions, they're not getting much push from the interior anyway. And now he could just take off and run. Now, in obvious pass downs, Lions go to sub package and they put Kaminsky and Pascal in. I'm confident we're going to get more pressure in these spots. But this is where you look at a guy like Levi who you drafted, where even if you're in a rundown set, you hope that he can get some push one-on-one with the guard, and you just don't have those guys out there. Show this one quick as well. This one of third downs. We started to blitz in the second half, but this time the Lions decided to drop out to the sticks, and this works for the Lions. They drop, they play the sticks in zone coverage, and they check it down underneath. He drops it anyway, but that was good. This one actually didn't count. This one came back because of an offensive pass interference. I think they got DK on this play, but I think the reason this happens is because, to me, this is probably a run-pass option for the quarterback here, where you have the zone handoff, but if he doesn't want to do it, he can pull it down and throw this flat route. So you're giving the quarterback a couple of options here, and I think big reason he did that is you can see Malcolm starts to creep up on the line. A lot of times when he goes to the edge, it means we're blitzing. So he starts to creep on the line. You're seeing man coverage, all right? And as you can see, Malcolm rushes. He pulls it down. I mean, that could have been a decision, but I think it was just a run-pass option. You can see how the offensive line's getting to the second level, how the guys are blocking. To me, that's what this is. And he decides to pull it down and throw it down to his tight end Fant. I think that was for like 10 yards, but it came back because of a flag. But regardless, again, credit to Seattle. They knew what to look for offensively in us, what our tendencies were, and then they had a lot of pre-snap adjustments, but they also had things like this, where run pass option, I see him rushing off the edge. Now you're asking Alex to get all the way over here in man coverage. I mean, that's the matchup that I want. It was a good throw. He just got called for PI. Similar to what we saw before, if you guys remember when we just looked at that play, it's similar. All right, you're going to get a drag. I think you get the drag here, and then you're going to have the tight end kind of come around and run a deep crosser. But this time the Lions are playing man coverage, and they got beat, which, again, I think that happens sometimes, and you kind of have to live with it, right? These are great receivers. These are great players. Someone's going to win these matchups, and in this case, DK won the matchup. This one was bad. The second time around, Okudah got beat, wasn't as bad. This one was bad, and this was a 54-yard pickup. But you can see early in the game, hey, look, this time we're not helping on anybody. We're playing single high safety. We're not going to help. We're going to blitz our linebacker. We're going to have one linebacker basically playing the hole, and we're going to drop Hutchinson out, so it's not even a blitz. So now it's like Aaron Glenn saying, okay, look, you're not going to hit us with this quarterback scramble. You're not going to spread us out and just be able to scramble on us just because we played man coverage. So we got to do something different. So Hutch drops out, and underneath coverage, he's actually be playing man coverage. But you have the single high safety, so it's a one-on-one. And this time they go right to DK, and Okudah's beat on this play. And that happens, right? That happens. But I think when you don't have confidence in your corners to match them up one-on-one, which is, if you remember coming in this week, remember what Aaron Glenn said, he would have the opportunity. He says, I feel like you know who you are as a team after 4 weeks. Okudah had the opportunity to prove that he's one of those guys that we can trust out there one-on-one, and it helps a lot of our defense. Well, this is an example. If Okudah shuts this down, it's huge for your defense, because now you could take away the scramble, and he's really searching to try to figure out where to go with football on their top receiver. In this case, he gets beat, and that happens, right? But what I think is a big issue right now is that amongst both, whether it's Amani or Okudah, you can trust Okudah, I think, in one-on-one. He's done good things this season, like on Devontae, he's done good things. Thing is, I don't know how much you can trust Amani one-on-one at this point. He seems to be struggling there. But in this case, again, you can see he gets beat on the play, and they pick up a 54-yard pickup there. As confusing as this looked to me, it looks like they were clearly on two different pages, and it seems like, you know, maybe they thought they were going to pass this off with each other as they go this slant flat look, which is a man beater. But as you can see, Kirby doesn't seem to pass it off. So as Amani sees him kind of just sticking with the flat route, he's like, okay, well, I got to cover the slant. So watch on this play. Look, he kind of sticks. You can see him running with it and kind of sticking with it. So Amani doesn't leak out into the flat. Kirby would have been late even if, you know, Kirby probably would have been late, even if Amani passed that off. But clearly they were not on the same page. So whether that's Amani or Kirby, whatever, the point is they were not on the same page, and that gave up a touchdown. And you can see how the Lions are kind of playing this, right? They're trying to like bracket in DK Metcalf by playing underneath coverage with Okudah in a cover 2 look on this side. The depth that Deshaun Elliott gets is massive with DK Metcalf on this side of the field, and they're actually going to end up getting it to him. But you can see how this plays out. Here you have your cover 4 look on this side. Now this time, Kirby Joseph is basically going to step in front of this dig route. I don't know if that's because if that's the receiver on this side of the field, or I don't know because there's a tight end there. Regardless, he's playing a little bit more aggressive, and he steps in front of this dig route and takes that away. So it's good on this side. But here, obviously, this is the depth that Elliott is getting to try to give the big play. Yes, they would have this corner route, right, because this underneath route is going to hold Okudah. He could have went this corner route, but at the same time, this is a good play by Geno Smith as well. They kind of run this jerk route, and he's able to use his eyes with this flat as well for the cornerback and the linebacker to hold him. And then as he starts to go again, now he's behind and he's in the blind spot of Alex Anzalone, and you can see what that leads to. And there you go, he opens up the middle of the field. So good job using his eyes by Geno Smith on that play and setting up a really well done jerk route right behind the linebackers. But you can see the conflict that they're basically putting our players in based on kind of some of the things that we're doing schematically. They're just putting us in conflict here, and this time they get Alex Anzalone bit. And also notice, we'll point this out later, Hutch has a tight end on him because he plays on the strong side. Charles is one-on-one. Now Charles gets some inside push, but he's really not forcing the quarterback to go anywhere. Hutch gets some penetration with his bull rush that forces the quarterback to slide out a little bit, as well as Charles getting inside. But this could be part of the reason that if you flip sides, you could get Hutch more one-on-ones because the tight end won't consistently be there because he's not going to be on the strong side. Again, Kirby is going to stick with this dig route, so there's going to be this opening space, and it's the conflict they're putting us in based on the scheme that we're playing defensively. Lions go to a same type of look here. Now this time it's against the boot action play, and basically they're almost like surrendering like 5 yards on a lot of these, but in this case it actually does work. Again, they're running like this cover 6 look, but they're doing it against a boot action play, so you can hear Amani's kind of just sitting here in underneath depth and underneath zone coverage, and then the top route you have the deep coverage here from the safety, and Deshaun Elliott, they don't have anybody on this side to feel to worry about, so Deshaun Elliott's just going to take off and cover that up. This is a cover 3, looks like cover 3 sky right from the Lions. They have Deshaun Elliott now in the box, and again they're going to stack these receivers. We saw this earlier in the game where they kind of stacked the receivers and they attacked this by they had them both run vertical, and then the one breaks off and does the corner route. He basically runs right behind him. We've seen that, and that can lead to the hole in the coverage, right? Because if you have a cornerback that's dropping into a deep third and they're both flowing up and then one breaks off, you're going to have a hole in the coverage because there's a deep middle safety, but there's no one else really there. Well, in this play, they're going to have Deshaun Elliott's going to carry the slot receiver here. I think this is Tyler Lockett. He's going to carry him up the field. All right, so now he takes him out of the field. Now you have Dwayne Eskridge, who's going to break down here and sit underneath. Okay, again, you got cover 3 on both sides of the field, as you guys can see here, how that's working. Well, Okudah, I think, makes a very smart play because this flat route, the linebacker is going to take this out of the backfield. Okudah makes a very smart play. Instead of just sitting back in his zone, he actually jumps down, understanding that the slot was picked up by his safety. There is deep safety help over top. I'm going to jump down on Dwayne Eskridge, who's sitting underneath, and not just leave that as a hole that he can come back to. So he jumps on it underneath and then gets in position to potentially help out. Now, this ends up being a completion, but again, there was a holding call here. Now, who drew the holding call was Charles Harris. You see his jump off the line. That's what it was. It was the immediate jump off the line that got him a step. You could see even when Austin Bryant's matched up in this situation, they put tight ends on their sides, so it makes it a little more difficult. They did this at another point in the game where Austin Bryant was basically picked up by the tight end and taken out of the play. You know, that's not something you want to have happen, but that's what you have to deal with when you're on that side, is that defensive end. When you're that strong side defensive end, you have to deal with that, and that's where I think you look at what Dan Campbell's talking about. Certain games, potentially trying to put Hutch on this open end side where you're one-on-one with the tackle, because in situations like this where they do pass it, you're not have to worry about, okay, I got to get around this traffic. You're just going immediately, and you need a guy that can consistently win against tackles. And this is a good win here by Charles, but I don't know if they feel like it's been consistent enough, especially when you're not getting some of the interior push. That's something that you have to look to. Same type of thing here. Again, another cover 6 look for an Alliance, and they're running it on DK's side. You can already kind of see it by how we're lined up, so that's something. I don't know. I mean, you can kind of see it, even though I already know what happens. But you can see the depth again that your safety here. This time Kirby Joseph is going to get. So Okudah's going to get physical. He's going to press, but he just has underneath zone coverage. Now they're going to be asking their slot to basically carry this route, right? He's not going to just pass it off because, again, if you have 2 vertical routes, then it puts the safety in a really tough position because now he's got to pick one, and that's difficult. And you have these 2 guys that are basically worried about this route. So he's going to carry this up the field. This is actually awesome by Mike Hughes. I don't know how he does this. Look at where he's looking. He gets himself flipped around while moving and gets in a really good spot. Like, I'm watching that, like, how in the world did Mike Hughes do this? How did he cover this deep crossing route with his back to the receiver for half? Like, what? Look at him. He flipped himself around. I mean, that's awesome. That is awesome. This could have been a coverage reader because you get past Jeff Okudah's zone coverage and you have this underneath route which kind of can pull him down a little bit, and you end up running like this dig underneath. The safety could come down and help, which I think is why you have to carry. But in this case, the safety is going to pull off and take that. But on the top is where the issue comes into play. That's where you got like your cover 4 side, right? You have the issue over here. It's Amani and it's Deshaun Elliott. So Elliott's doing what similarly we saw Kirby Joseph do, I think. Now there's no tight end on his side, but it's kind of similar. He's sitting a little bit underneath. The Detroit Lions are bringing a 4-man rush. They get a little bit of pressure, which helps him out here. But he's kind of sitting a little bit more underneath on this route. I think a big reason for that is it's not DK Metcalf, it's Tyler Lockett. So he's being a lot more aggressive here, kind of sitting in this zone coverage, seeing this vertical route, and he's thinking, okay, I may slide over here a little bit. So maybe that's part of the issue as well, because you kind of pull him out of the play. But then on top of that, you can just see Amani. He just looks a little bit out of control in this play. And I think this is where you talk about like at top of the routes where he's had issues finding connection, getting connection. Obviously last week he was just grabbing every time it came to the top of the route. Look at him here. He can't really find his balance on this play. We saw this against Philly week 1 when he gave up a complete, well, it was actually incomplete, but they threw it out of bounds to Devontae. When the play breaks down like this, being able to plaster late in the play has been an issue with Amani. This play goes on longer than it probably should have, but trying to plaster and stick with him, he's struggling to do that. He's struggling to get in his pocket and kind of seal this thing off after initially being in the right spot of coverage. The play goes a little bit longer than maybe you would like, right here, because he doesn't get the pressure and the sack, but he's struggling to kind of get connection with him, and all these little movements by Tyler has him flying all over the place, and he's playing off. He's not really getting up, being physical with him, as he's the only guy on this side of the field, and you can see he's beat, and it's a 16-yard completion for the offense, which goes from second and forever or first and forever to that. And now here again is where you point to, all right, some of the interior pass rush. You got Brockers and you have Benito Jones both rushing the quarterback here. Brockers gets a one-on-one. Now with this, this could still be an issue. Even Kaminsky and Pascal are here unless they can do this in some rundowns. They feel confident if they can. But these guys are not getting pressure. And again, it's not expected. We don't really see, I don't remember ever thinking Brockers was a good pressure guy one-on-one. You can see they're not getting any pressure. So as Bryant gets basically just shoved out of the play, trying to rush with tight end help. All right, Charles got a one-on-one. He wins his one-on-one. That's great spin move, but he doesn't finish. You're getting zero movement basically here from the interior. I mean, look at this. They are locked up. So you're not getting pushed there again. And that's where you look at Kaminsky. That's where you look at Josh Pascal. And you say, there's where they could get us a little bit more pressure, because right now our interior guys are not winning one-on-one. Someone's got to do it. Ali McNeil has won them at times, but he can't be your only guy winning those. And he needs breaks too, right? He needs reps. He needs time off too. So you're not getting those wins right now, which is an issue. It's pretty quick and easy to me. I mean, this one may not be a run pass option based on the offensive line. This could have been just a simple play action, but this could again be a check at the line. As you can see, the Lions are playing man coverage. They're showing you boom, boom, boom. Safety down, he's playing man coverage. But as you see, because we're playing man coverage and Amani doesn't have direct safety help, look how much space he is giving him off the line. He's basically giving him 8 yards off the line of scrimmage. Now he's backing up to closer to 9. He's giving him that many yards off the line of scrimmage because there is no safety help. And that's easy. You just got to break in front of him. And again, the play action fake pulls down your linebacker, and that's an easy pickup. That's way too easy. But that's how much of a threat that they had on the Lions defense, they felt like, is that they were not willing to really get up if they were one-on-one. And the one time they did, which they allowed Okudah that opportunity, he got beat. Or the 2 times, he got beat on those, and then later he came back with a pass breakup. But it doesn't seem to me that they're really trusting Amani to get up and play one-on-one with these guys. That seems to be an issue, is they're not trusting him to get up and play one-on-one. He's just sitting back in depth if there's not safety help. And that's not easy. That makes it difficult and stresses everybody. This one, I hate to show it because we kind of touched on it yesterday, but this is the big play Lions gave up. Now, this is after seeing it. And again, to me, when they see your defense, the first time they try to pass it, which is a lot of teams try to do that, try to get like a quick pass against our man, try to hit like a screen, it never really works. Lions get off the field in 3rd and long. But on this play, they already saw your look defensively because there was a flag or whatever. They reset the play and they gave them another down. The Lions gave them the same look. Double leg get blitz. Look, boom, boom. You got Borden and Alex in there. So as you can see, as Elliott comes out because it's man coverage and everybody's just getting matched up, I don't know who has the running back here. I would assume one of these linebackers would probably drop out and take that if that was the case, and that's probably their adjustment to it, or maybe they're thinking he's going to pass protect. Regardless, you don't have the bodies for a pulling offensive lineman. Everybody is matched up one-on-one, right? You don't have the bodies for a pulling offensive lineman, because if they pick up each block, most of the time you're outnumbered, right, offensively. They're not outnumbered at all in this. So because of what we're doing schematically, as Dan Campbell said, they got us. It was clever, but they came out and they're like, dude, look, we got the numbers here. We can match up 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And it's the pulling offensive lineman that does it, because if they try to do an inside zone or something, he's going to get hit because they're going to have a free defender. But they don't. They pull an offensive lineman. And as long as you protect off this backside, which I thought they did a great job of to not get it, blown up in the backfield, as long as you do that, Lions don't have numbers. They got no linebackers. They have no safeties to help, and it's an easy touchdown. It's unfortunate that they actually hit us with this twice. That's what's super unfortunate, is that they hit us with this twice. And you can see that's just a good play design against something that we do all the time. So we also touched on yesterday as well. Again, more cover 6, DK side. I mean, what are they going to do? Well, I think we all know what they're going to do at this point, right? They're going to play cover 6. So underneath zone, it's Jeff Okudah. DK's in the slot. Deshaun Elliott's going to get a massive amount of depth, right? Now, there's probably a corner route right here. Yep, that he's got to worry about. Because of that corner route, Okudah has to get depth because of how deep Elliott's playing. Elliott's not playing tight enough where it's like, hey, he can slide down and, hey, Okudah, you can play more aggressive. No, they're having, Deshaun Elliott get so much depth that Okudah has 2 guys to worry about. He can't just sit on this flat, or this corner is wide open. So Okudah has to continue to get depth here.
One thing we saw Minnesota do is they would ask Eric Kendrick and Malcolm Spot here to carry this slot route out to the corner. They did it at the end of the game, and that allowed Okudah to play closer to the line against this underneath route. As you're going to see, Kirby's going to dive underneath anyways to take away this crosser, so that's possible, but then it takes Amani and puts him basically in a one-on-one with outside leverage.
All right, this is your cover 6 side. He has to continue to get depth, and it's just an easy completion where they pick up 11 yards, and you're basically just giving them 11 yards playing this soft coverage. Regardless, obviously what we're trying to do, we're trying to play man coverage. And if you want to be aggressive, you can blitz here, but that's going to leave a lane. So I think this time they actually run a cover 1 spy, which I don't dislike the play call. They're sliding to safety to help a little bit more on Okudah's side, which makes sense. So because of that, as we said, you get this far off coverage from Amani on the opposite side. I don't hate this play call by the defense. It's just that we got to get out there to make the play. And you can see where the lane's filling. I think Malcolm has to start to slide that direction just because of filling lanes. You get a double team by the guard in the center, and you have your edge rusher going around the edge. There's a massive gap that you can see forming right in front of him. But for the Lions, they run cover 1 spy across the field. A little bit more safety up to Okudah's side, but he is still one-on-one, right? But as you can see, it's just a huge open lane that they basically leave on this play.
And here's another one of those plays where you think about maybe having Kirby play with a little bit less depth, getting a little bit closer down in this cover 1 set. Okudah starts to drop out anyway, but again, it's that trust of one-on-one. If they allow him to slide down a little bit more, maybe it gives you a better chance of making a play, allowing just less yards.
That's why I think Malcolm could have helped us a lot more there, because he doesn't have a matchup. He doesn't have a running back. You could say, well, he's sitting in the hole of the zone. Yeah, but at the same time, I think he looks more like a spy just based on how he's playing this role. That's what it seems like to me, because they pull our other linebacker out of the play. And you can see right here, he probably should have slid. With that said, from his angle, as I'm looking at it, I can kind of see how he's like, well, I got to slide over here because, Isaiah Buggs is starting to creep that direction. Buggs wanted a hold. So this one, I don't know what this one, I'm not too mad actually about the play call. I can see what the Lions were trying to do. I'm not terribly mad about that, and you try to put safety up. He didn't go cover 0, so I'm not terribly mad about this one. You can see why he wanted the hold. That gets up on his shoulders there, but as you can see, we just don't make the play. This play is the one I wanted to point out because this is something that we had ran against us last season, and it was very similar, but there's one little difference that Seattle added, which changed a lot for us. All right, now the Lions were terrible actually against these play action bootlegs, but I give Seattle a lot of credit because of the way that they were attacking us offensively. It put us in some really tough positions where we were out of place. Here's the main thing that happens on this play. Fast motion left with Dwayne Eskridge or D. Eskridge. That's not the biggest thing. What's huge here is how that moves our linebacker. So if the Lions are going to play zone coverage, which on this play, that's what it looks like, the Lions are dropping into a cover 3 zone again. If the Lions are going to do that, let's take a look at what this shift does. Let's take a look at what the fast motion does. Watch the linebackers. All right, you see that? Now you see where Malcolm is when he snaps the ball? He's basically in the left A gap of this center. So when that takes place, linebackers shifted over. Here's the play fake. They're going to bite a couple steps. He doesn't crash too far. You can see Alex is telling him to get out there on this beneath route. You can see him pointing that out. But the issue is because of that fast motion and it slid us in zone coverage, because of that being the case, it's too much ground for Malcolm to cover. Because I'm sitting here like, why can't we get out there? I think it's still possible he could have covered it, but then there's another little wrinkle. Last time we faced this against Minnesota, this clip, this tight end crashes in the block. This tight end works up vertically, and what that does, watch Julian, he doesn't immediately crash down. So he starts to kind of fade up a little bit because of that route going upfield. and Julian does not get any touch. He needs to get some sort of contact here on this tight end. He needs to get some sort of contact to slow this down. If Malcolm's going to have a shot of getting all the way over here to cut this off, he has to get some contact. So now there's no contact. Malcolm has to cover a ton of field, which in comparison to this play with Jalen Maven, didn't have to cover that much field because of the fast motion. Now he's got to cover a lot of field. And again, that's attacking one thing that we do. When you're in these sets, we're playing single high, so it could be man, linebacker shift. Now we know it's zone, and basically at this point, we got him. I mean, that's what they're sitting there. We got him because Amani's going to carry this. All right, Alex does a good job taking the crosser, but guess what? It's too much ground for Malcolm to try to cover. We got him. We got him. This is not the same type of look, but another up-tempo, what they call it, a sugar, what do they call it? A sugar huddle or something where they just kind of get right to it. So here we go. This time the Lions are going to go to man coverage. Now, again, they're kind of giving you that show pre-snap, but it's another one of these play-action bootlegs. So Kirby's going to come down, take away this tight end. Lions are going to play man coverage across the board. Lions don't do this a ton, and I think part of the reason is some of the trust that they have one-on-one. They're going single high safety, but you have to be able to trust your corners because if you can't, it makes things difficult. And I think that's what we've seen as an issue. This time to say, look, we got to go man coverage. All right, they just hit us on that. That's a tough spot. They're putting us in a really tough spot. As also the tight end is going to crash. He's going to chip and then reinstitute a flat. Lions go man here. Now, Okudah does a great job on DK Metcalf, crossing the field, getting in his hip, sticking with the play, and breaking this up. He made a similar play against San Fran last year against a similar look. So he made his play. That's where he goes with the football. But look at Amani here. Look at him against this out route. You see that space that he's getting? That's a good out route that he could put out there for about 6-7 yards. So you have to be able to trust your guys to be able to play that man coverage. You have to be able to trust them to stay under control and play man coverage if you're going to do it. And the Lions try to adjust to it. Hero Okudah made a good play, but there is some lack of trust, it seems like, at time for them to do that. Credit, to Seattle and some of the weapons they have. They're good weapons, so I'm not like discounting, be like, man, because if you think about it, where you had guys that we were afraid of that could get over top, whether that was Cincinnati, whether that was Minnesota, all right, Justin Jefferson, we played it differently. We put Amani on him, and Amani was just getting worked by Justin Jefferson, and Jared Jacobs took out Adam Thielen of the game, all right, both times around, actually. Seattle put up 51 on us last year. Green Bay with Devontae Adams scored well on us both times. Cincinnati, Baltimore had a couple opportunities from Marquise Brown. He just dropped them all. This is something that you do notice. Mike Hughes doing a good job in coverage, but you got to be able to trust your guys. And I think if you can trust his guys, as you see, he gets a dap up there from Bobby Pleasant. If you can do that, you'll be a little bit more aggressive. Our blitz rate is going down. It's now down to 38%. Still super high, but it was like 42 to start the year, and last week it was 40. Now it's 38. I think it was 48 to start the year. Now it's down to 38. Yeah, you got to trust your cornerbacks. So here's basically Aaron Glenn saying, all right, I'm going to trust my cornerbacks. We're going to go 3rd and long. I think it's the 3rd and long. I'm going to trust my cornerbacks to make the play. 3rd and 10, I think. Lions go cover 0 blitz.
Yesterday, I was clearly confused about this. From what I see now, Deshaun Elliott looks like he's matched on the tight end, which is why Elliott kind of rushes towards the side and then he rushes late. And Alex seemingly has the running back out of the backfield.
Hutchinson's going to get a quick quarterback hit, but he just needs to get it off. He just gets it off. Alex, you can see, kind of pulls out to help out in the running back. But who is it? You want to go one-on-one? You want to trust your guys one-on-one? They put Kirby one-on-one. If Kirby has very legitimate upside being able to play man coverage, even though he gave up that touchdown, he does have really good feet for a safety, and that's one thing that part of the reason I think it hurts to lose Tracy is Tracy was doing extremely well in man. Elliott's done really good in man, and now they're asking Kirby, which is probably the reason they decided to go with Kirby over Juju, is because the man coverage ability. And again, Aaron Glenn wants to be aggressive. So if you're going to be aggressive, if you're going to blitz, if you're going to play cover 0 and do all these things, and you're asking safety to play man, you got to trust your safety to play man coverage. And if they don't trust that Juju Hughes can do that, and they want to do that aggressive style, especially on 2nd down, it seemed like they wanted to get aggressive in this game. If they're going to do that, they need a safety that they feel like can play man. So maybe that's part of the reason they went with Kirby in this game. And you can see he's working here on the slot. But Amani is beat with the double move very quickly, and the ball doesn't even come out well, but he's so far beat that it makes a huge play. And I'm not saying this is easy to cover. This is a lot of ground to cover for Amani. But he was beat on this play. It would have been nice the pressure got home sooner, but it got home pretty soon. So there you go. You got beat. This one, like you can see it. Even on this one, a lot of times you're in this goal line man. Lions are showing pressure. Why? Because both their off-ball linebackers on the edge. They're usually blitzing. So Derek Barnes, they're bringing the blitz. We want to be aggressive. Okay, we're going to do it. So you want to be aggressive? Elliott, he's going to have to cover the tight end. Watch Elliott's coverage first on Noah Fant. Hey, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm saying our safeties are covering well. So that's going to leave Kirby Joseph on this tight end. As you can see, Kirby Joseph has this tight end, but he's not going to really go anywhere, but he's going to get out there late. So good coverage from there. Jeff Okudah Pretty good coverage seemingly on DK Metcalf, who's going to run like speed release, like crosser. All right, let's watch him. Just jump off the line, no steps, no jabs, just speed release. Okuda's in a spot where he could potentially make a play. But then it was a pass breakup, I think, technically by Amani. But just watch him off the line here. And this is where I think he struggles a little bit. Some of these shiftier guys. Look at him off the line. Look how much space is created here with that boom. Look, I mean, just look at how much ground is created. Now, the ball comes out probably too late. And the Lions bring the blitz, so credit to them. And I love how Amani hustles back into this. But that's just an example of how close it was. I won't really show this one. Will had to step in for a minute on Amani, and as soon as Will came in, they went to, again, they're going back to their man stuff. He tried to press him. He basically just got like thrown off on this play. And obviously when you go to man, there's also man beaters, and in this play, they have a man beater at the top of the screen here, and Mike Hughes tries to get through, but it's not even just like a pick play. It's like an out and then back in. He runs like an angle route, and he kind of gets caught up with Okuda on this one. So you do see, though, they decide to go press man on DK Metcalf with Will Harris with a single high safety. So that's something. I mean, I'm just saying, it's interesting. They talk about personnel. Maybe they just want to see it. And just like, hey, you know, we want to play press man. Let's see if you can do it. They tried it here. Clearly just got shoved off, but they tried it. Also, this last touchdown, which, again, I hate to look at it, but we'll take a look at it. It's a 41-yard touchdown run for Rashad Penny. The Lions are doing something similar. They're not, you know, doubling up on the A-gap necessarily, but they are putting everybody on the line. You could see Alex is on the line. He's in, you know, A, B. You know, Elliott's down here. You got one single high deep safety. You have Chris Board on the edge here. So you still have a single high. You're not going like cover zero on this play. But what does Seattle do? Well, basically, they just add an extra number. So the Lions on this play, they try to put Chris Board on the edge, so they get an extra number themselves. But Seattle says we're going to put an extra number. So here's where he sees the zone. He starts to move that direction, potentially trying to take away the read option. Block here, I could see why he would need to do that, because if they go read option and both these tackles and guards pick up our edge rushers, because we have two free defenders, if they both block here, it could be that Deshaun Elliott has to get out there and make a play on the quarterback, right? He might be the only guy in position to do that because everybody else is playing man. But he doesn't. He just hands it off. So I can kind of understand why he left. But they're going to pull two offensive linemen against what we're doing, and they outnumber us again. I mean, there's no shot here for our defense. And again, like Dan Campbell said, they got us. There is another one. They got you. All right. They know what you want to do. And it doesn't even matter really where your guys are dropping again, because you're lined up there. When I snap it, that's where you're lined up at. We are going to outnumber you with two pulling offensive linemen, put you in a bad spot. Even if Elliott stays there, they might not get it because there's two pulling offensive linemen. They'll probably have a better chance. But then if Gino just pulls it down, he might be running by himself free. So, you know, again, they took advantage of how we were lined up schematically, and they broke it for a touchdown. I think getting those interior pass rushers back would be huge, because we need more guys that can win on the inside. Maybe they'll move Hutchinson around. We'll see. I also think getting Jerry back is going to be interesting, because I think, again, if Jerry comes back healthy and he's Jerry that we think he is, I think, you know, if I knew he was last year's Jerry, I'd start him over Amani at this point. No hate to Amani. I like Amani, but it's just not working right now. At least in certain matchups, I would do that. Like maybe, I think next week, I haven't looked at New England enough. Next week, we might be fine. I don't know if they have that guy that scares the Lions over top like a DK Metcalf. I don't know if that receiving core consists of that, and I think we could be fine. But when you get teams like that, where they come in and it's like, we got to worry about this guy and that guy. Can we trust them one-on-one? If you don't feel like you can trust your guys one-on-one, or they have to give 9 yards of cushion if they don't have help, then it's just easy. It's easy pitch and catch. If you feel like you have to go to soft zone coverage all the time, that's too easy. And at that point, on top of that, we're not even making plays on those. He does not look great right now in terms of coverage. He may still be dealing with his injury, but a lot of the things that I think that were issues last year that showed up are showing up. And on top of that, he's not getting his picks right now. He's not making plays on the football, and a lot of these matchups are not ideal for him. And Okuda's done well, right? He's done pretty well for Seattle. Yes, they helped him against Jefferson. He did really good against Devontae Smith. Amani's done his good plays as well, but matchups are going to be important. I think the Lions will have to start looking at week by week. If Jerry comes back healthy, who matches up best? And then if Jerry does well, you roll with Jerry Jacobs. But we'll see. I think the Lions need Jerry Jacobs back right now, because they at least need to have that option. And I think if they get that option and Jerry comes back as last year's Jerry and he was starting, I think the Lions defense will look completely different. And I think overnight they would be way better. I'm just being honest. But anyways, let me know your thoughts, comments below. Credit to Seattle. I think they did a lot of the good things schematically, and they took advantage. Thank you, Brad, for watching, and I'm out.